I've saved my progress as lostshadows.psd, found inside the 17 Shads Highlights folder. And our purpose in this exercise is to recover those lost shadows using a luminance mask. And as you may recall from our earlier discussions of luminance versus density masks, luminance masks go ahead and reveal the highlights and conceal the shadows automatically, whereas density masks will conceal the highlights and reveal the shadows. In our case, we need to conceal the shadows. I know that doesn't make any sense. They're so dark. Why would we want to conceal them that much further? What we're doing is we're concealing them from the effects of these filters, which are causing the darkness. So that's why we need a luminance mask that will leave the highlights revealed to the effects of these filters. Which filters are we talking about? Well, let's go ahead and build up the image again. Alt-click or Option-click on the eyeball in front of background. There's our original shadows. They're in great shape, obviously. They're not very dramatic, so I guess they're not in great shape. However, they are visible. We can see them. Whereas once we add the Shadows Highlights layer, we have more dramatic shadows. So those look pretty good to me. And we could go ahead and conceal down to those if we wanted to. As soon as we add Gaussian blur, they're goners. And then high pass doesn't really make it any worse. It just leaves the shadows goners. We really need to mask both of these layers right here in order to effectively bring back the shadows. And so what I'm going to suggest is that you click on high pass and shift click on Gaussian blur, like so, in order to select both those layers. Anytime you want to apply a single layer mask to multiple layers, you need to put them inside of a group. So go up here to the Layers panel flyout menu icon and click on it, and then choose this command right there, New Group from Layers. And that will bring up the new group dialog box. And then you can name this thing Filter Set, like so, and then click OK in order to create a group, a folder here that contains both of those filters. If I twirl it open by clicking on the little twirly triangle, then I can see the contents of that folder. There they are. So that's one way to work. Another way, by the way, just go ahead and show you this. I'll undo by pressing Control-Z, Command-Z on a Mac. You also have a keyboard shortcut, which is just Control-G or Command-G on a Mac. We'll go ahead and group the selected layers into a folder. However, you'll have to perform the second step of naming that group by double-clicking on it and then entering Filter Set. Now, those of you who are cottoning to what's going on here might say, can you press Control-Alt-G or Command-Option-G? Because pressing Alt or Option always brings up that dialog box. Not in this case, because that keyboard shortcut is already devoted by default to creating a clipping mask, as you can see right there. Anyway, if you decide to go the keyboard route, Control-G, Command-G, then you're going to have to turn around and name the group in a separate step. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and twirl open the group so we can keep track of it. Now, I'm going to apply a layer mask to this group, and that layer mask will be a luminance mask. But in order to get a halfway decent luminance mask out of things, we need to really burrow down to the original image. So I'm going to Alt-click or Option-click on the eyeball in front of background. Then I'll switch over to channels so that we can see the independent color channels here. Red, and then green, and then blue. And every one of them is a potential luminance mask because the channel is light where the image is light, so it's going to reveal the highlights. And the channel is dark where the image is dark, so it's going to conceal the shadows. However, blue probably isn't our best bet because the blue channel is the least responsive to skin tones. So we're not going to have super bright highlights there. Whereas if I were to switch to the green channel, that's going to lighten up the flesh tones. We're going to have excellent detail out of this channel. The green channel most closely represents a grayscale composite of the image, incidentally. But because this is a portrait shot, the skin tones are going to resonate most brightly in the red channel. Regardless of race or creed or any of that jazz, the subject of your photo is going to be brightest in that red channel. So anyway, that's the channel I'm going to use as a luminance mask. I'm going to Control-click on a PC, Command-click on a Mac in order to load it as a selection outline. Click on the RGB composite image to switch back to the full color image. Go to the Layers panel, Alt or Option-click once again on that eyeball in front of background so that we can see all of the layers in the stack. And then with the filter set active right there, with that group active, I want you to drop down to the Add Layer Mask icon and just click on it. If we were making a density mask, you would Alt or Option-click on it in order to invert that mask. That's not what we're doing. We want a luminance mask, so just click. And you get this effect right there. And notice we have opened up those shadows fairly dramatically. That is, we are now burrowing down to the shadows on the shadow highlight layer. More or less, that is to say. No, we're not burrowing all the way absolutely down because if I alt-click or option click on that layer mask thumbnail there inside the layers panel, you can see that his shirt isn't actually black. It's a dark gray, so it's just mostly burrowing its way down to the shadows highlights layer. All right, so I'm going to alt click or option click again to return to the RGB composite image, just so we can see what kind of difference this mask is making. Shift click on it. This is before. Shift click again. This is after. I am of two minds. One, I'm thinking we're not burrowing down far enough. I want to see more brightness than that. Secondly, I'm thinking we might be losing a little bit of the drama. And I'll show you how to address both issues in the next exercise.